Well, good evening and welcome to the unplanned watch party. We hope everybody is enjoying the quarantine that seems to be never ending. Although, in the great state of Texas, where Abby Johnson and I live, it is on the way out, and you can smell the freedom as we hopefully start to get back to normal over the coming weeks. We hope tonight is enjoyable for those of you who have seen the movie Unplanned, and for those of you who haven't seen Unplanned. This is yet another free pro-life resource that you can use and share with a lot of people. Abby, how are you? I know I have 8 kids at my house. You have 8 kids at your house. How's the Johnson family quarantine going?
We haven't quarantined very well, honestly. We don't social distance well. I spend about 75% of our day outside. I mean, thankfully in Texas, the weather has been really nice. So we've been spending a lot of time outside and with our neighbors and neighborhood friends. And yeah, I mean, quarantine schooling is going as expected, I guess. It makes me appreciate their teachers more and more
Yes,
every day. So yeah. So it's going. We're doing
it's
okay. We're
going.
making it. But
It's
yes.
going.
But I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm like smelling the freedom and it smells really good. So
Yeah, we're ready for it to end. I don't know how else to say it.
oh
So
yeah.
things,
Yeah.
nobody's threatened anyone else's life, but we're ready for it to end. We're close. We're bonding. We've had some great movie nights. We've eaten a lot of pizza. It's been awesome, and it needs to end soon. So
Yeah.
let's
And you
pray
know
for
what I'm
Greg
ready
Abbott
for?
tonight
I'm
too.
ready to go to a restaurant and have other people pick up after me. That's really what I'm ready for. Like, I need to have
Yeah,
somebody
well,
clean up my dishes.
well, we can actually, and now we can do that at 25%. So
Yeah.
25%. So yeah, when they reduced it down to you couldn't have 10 or more people together in any given area, we violated that instantly by
Sure.
just being in
Yeah.
existence at our house. So
Really.
we're definitely ready
Yes.
for it to end. We know many of you are ready for it to end. We're going to answer some questions in the live chat as you watch all these clips. We have a lot of clips through Unplanned that we're going to go to and explain some of the behind the scenes and certainly get Abby's perspective on some of these powerful scenes. Be sure to participate in the chat. Try to behave yourself in the chat. That's always a good thing. And
I know.
also, we are going to give away 25 DVD sets tonight. So tell us your unplanned story. Maybe you are on the fence of abortion. Maybe you are post abortive. Maybe you participated in 40 Days for Life. However, unplanned moved you. Email your story to media at 40daysforlife.com, and we are going to take the best ones, the 25 best, most powerful stories. We're going to send you a free DVD. And for those of you who don't have a story, have no interest in emailing us, go to Amazon Prime and watch Unplanned. It recently was released on Prime. We're getting a lot of feedback of just now the Amazon people, the random people of the world are watching Unplanned. So the impact continues to go. So if you have not seen it, watch it on Amazon. You can also buy it from 40daysforlife.com at our store. So get Unplanned. We hope this inspires you to share this powerful movie and hopefully learn a few things tonight. So we are going to begin with an opening prayer, then we're going to get to some of your questions. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. Heavenly Father, we come with a spirit of repentance for our nation and the world's sin of abortion. We ask you to use this coronavirus pandemic to point us back to the dignity of the human person. We pray for all those who work in the abortion industry right now, and for those who are on the brink of a conversion, and for those who are nowhere close to a conversion. May you do something in their lives to point them to your beauty, to your mercy, and to your love. And we pray for an end to this barbaric slaughter of abortion. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Okay, to start, Abby, we got a ton of questions when we announced this, and as you know, this was sort of thrown together last minute as the pandemic continued. But let's just start with a big picture question, and I got this a lot about you when the movie came out, and it certainly was something obviously I saw when I saw the original screenplay and then saw the movie for the first time. Many people have read your book, but you chose to really put yourself out there in this movie. And you didn't have to. You could have, cafeteria'd your life and your story, and it's different to write a book, and people that buy a book read it, and some like it and some don't. But when you're in a movie, you're out there. Your family was out there, your husband, your parents, and then obviously you. What went into the decision to say, I'm telling the full story? It's going to be a hard movie to watch, and we're going to go full throttle on this.
Originally I didn't want to. I mean, when I got the email from the directors, I got it, and I sort of laughed, and I thought, no, not interested in doing that. I thought I've been vulnerable enough. I've shared my story enough. I've written a book. I've traveled internationally. I've exposed myself enough, and I don't have any interest in doing that. And but the conversation just sort of continued, and they sort of kept at me about it, and eventually I thought, okay, well, I'll hear them out about it. And I just finally came to the decision that it wasn't about me and my comfort, but I knew that the Lord had done some pretty amazing things through the book, Unplanned. I mean, really, this whole thing is his story. And I thought, I told his story through the book, and I tell his story when I go around and share, around the world. And I thought this is just another way to share his story and to share it in a bigger way than I ever had before. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll do it. Let's give it a go. And so we did. And when the producers came, they flew to Austin, where we live, to show me the film. And it was just, the very first rough cut. And they sat in my living room and they showed it to me, and I watched it, and Doug and I watched it, and they said, "What'd you think?" And I said, "Oh, it was great, And they left. We closed the door, and we walked back to the bedroom, and I looked at Doug and I said, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this anymore. It's too much. I felt so exposed. I mean, I felt like, oh my gosh, I just thought, oh my gosh, the world is about to see me completely bare. And I thought, I don't want to do this anymore. And I don't want the world to see the worst part of who I was. It just felt too vulnerable. It felt too much. And I just started to panic. And, I said, I want to get out of it. Can I get out of it? And Doug just said, no. and you have to remember why you're doing this.
Mm.
And that was really what I needed to hear, you know? And so I said, you know, you're right. It's not about me. It was really never about me. I mean, I didn't do it because I wanted Abby Johnson to be, you know, a household name. They could have made the character Alice Smith for all I care. You know, it wasn't about my name. Like, it wasn't about making my name a household name. It was about the story. It was about God's story. It was about helping people understand that God's redemption, that his mercy is for everyone. I want that to be known to every household. It's not about me. And that conversion is possible, and that it's real, and that miracles are still happening every day.
And, you know, one of the things that, as a result of that, as a result of you listening to Doug and you moving forward and saying, okay, we're doing this, and I'm going to remember my why. I think one of the most powerful things about Unplanned for just a pro-lifer who is just entering the pro-life movement, or maybe came into it through Unplanned, is the chemical abortion factor. Because you've given 1 million talks on chemical abortions, so have I. You can give them for 5 minutes, you can give them for an hour, and half the crowd, it just goes over their head with the 2 pills and this. And Unplanned in 2 minutes is the best education, I believe, on earth of RU46 and a chemical abortion. And our first scene, we're not going to show the chemical abortion, but your description of that abortion in Unplanned. Gilbert, roll that clip.
It's not abnormal.
Not abnormal. The bleeding, the clotting, the pain, that is normal.
Use heating pads, soak in a warm tub, take ibuprofen.
How could you not have told me about this? What happened to gently emptying my uterus? That is what I was told would happen.
Look, I'm sorry, but I have another patient.
8 weeks passed. 8 weeks of blood clots. 8 weeks of excruciating cramps. And when it was finally over, my anger had disappeared, only to be replaced by self-loathing. Meaning, I no longer blamed Planned Parenthood for everything that happened. I blamed myself.
Abby, isn't there a misconception? I mean, doesn't the abortion industry want RU46 to be, you know, you just take a pill? It's like college kids going out, getting drunk, taking an Advil the next day, and moving on with their lives, and it's no big deal.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what they want people to believe. And that's what I hear all the time. Like, I do counseling in my local pregnancy center, and these women come in and, you know, they've already talked to an abortion clinic, and they've been told, you know, oh, it's, well, I ask them, I always say, you know, what did the clinic tell you that a medication abortion is going to be? And every single time their answer to me is, oh, they just told me it's going to be, you know, like a heavy period. It's just going to be like, you know, heavy bleeding. And it's interesting to me because they need to sell that lie, because the truth would make these girls run and hide. The truth is too real. It's too hard. And it would cause them to rethink their decision. But that's the reality of the abortion industry, right? Is the reality of the abortion industry is that they don't run on information and consent. They thrive off of misinformation and fear. You know, women walk into an abortion facility because they're scared. Because they're scared of the future. They're scared of what being a mother could bring them in their current situation. They're scared. They're vulnerable. They don't know what the future will hold if they have a baby or another baby. At that time, it's fear. That's what drives them to think about abortion. And Planned Parenthood and the abortion industry, they exploit that fear. So instead of truly empowering them, they exploit that fear. And they don't give them full information. So they don't give them informed consent. That's why they stand against ultrasound legislation that would truly give women informed consent. They don't want women to have information. They don't want women to have truly informed consent. They want to really manipulate them and manipulate that fear and further drive that fear into their heart so that they won't make an informed choice. That's what abortion really is. Because what we see is that when women have more time, when they have more information, they almost always make a choice for life. That's what pregnancy centers see all around this country. And so, you know, it's no wonder that so many women have regret after abortion, because they truly didn't know what they were getting themselves into, because they were sold a bunch of lies from the abortion industry.
That's also why we didn't see the abortion industry come out a year ago and say, here are the 5 medical inaccuracies of Unplanned, and just blast the movie out of the water. And because everybody, as you said, you talk to women leaving the abortion facility, you talk to women in pregnancy centers, it's all the same experience, particularly with RU486, which is this is supposed to be an uneventful deal. And it was a mess, and it was a disaster, and the psychological ramifications, much less the emotional and physical, are something that are on full display in Unplanned. And so I think that the RU486 abortion scene is the most powerful, the shower scene, but it's the description, it's the full-blown education that the movie offers. Okay, I want to switch gears on something, and you mentioned, you've already mentioned Doug. Doug is obviously your husband and the hero of the movie. We have a scene with Doug and your parents, and I have to say, for me personally, knowing you at the abortion industry, and even after you came in the office and you had your change of heart, I was nervous about meeting your husband and especially your parents. I just assumed that your parents were these left-wing, Donald Trump hating, liberal, anti-pro-life, crazy people. And, obviously I couldn't have been more wrong. And so I think what happens when somebody hears a story like yours is, oh, well, she was raised in this crazy house, and that's just, people turn out this way or whatever. And I would have thought that, just seeing you go in with your security card into that Planned Parenthood building. And then I learn you come from these like great Baptist people. And I'm like, what's wrong with you? These are great people. And so
one of my favorite pictures ever. Like,
I know what you're going to say, because I look like I'm 10.
One of my favorite pictures ever is the picture of you with my parents.
It's at the Students for Life conference. I know. I'm like,
and you're standing in the middle, like
yeah. It looks like your parents,
like on both sides. They're like squeezing you so tight.
Oh yeah. So that was a year after you left, and I had met them many times. But we were at I was just like, hello, these people went and stole an altar boy from a church and they kidnapped me. Please help. That's what the photo looks like. But it's 2011. It's right when the book came out. And I think we were all in DC for the March for Life. You were speaking at the Students for Life conference. So anyways, yeah, they came up and we took that photo. And then when you showed it to me, I was like, why do I look like such a dork? And Mary Lisa had a similar comment, actually. So very, very funny. With that said, let's roll this clip.
The way I see it, the real issue is viability. At that point, the fetus could live outside the womb, but before that, it's just undeveloped tissue that couldn't possibly survive on its own.
Abby, how can you say it's okay to abort at 8 weeks, but not at 24? Viability keeps changing as medical science improves. Are you saying that the measure of what's moral or immoral changes as medical science advances?
What I'm saying is that I'm not going to apologize for doing a job that helps women in crisis. I love my job. I am committed to doing it. It is who I am. It is part of what makes me me. Take it or leave it.
Fair warning, Doug. Dr. Dobson's book, The Strong-Willed Child, was one of the first books I ever bought. I still own it. All right, who's up for dessert? Abby, sweetie, why don't you help me?
You won't believe what happened this week. A woman came in with abdominal pain, and when we examined her, we discovered it was uterine cancer.
That's nice.
You don't even care.
More than you realize, sweetie. May I take these back to the table for me, please? Okay. Right now, I need you to listen to me and not say anything. I know you don't agree, but to your dad and me, you were our baby from the moment of conception. I know it's not how you feel, but it's how we feel.
You don't like where she's working. I can't stand it.
But you still want to marry her?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, ain't love grand?
Okay, so I think that this gave such a warmth to the movie because it's real in that there's a struggle. Nobody just prances off and joins the abortion industry. There is a struggle, and it's one that makes the story more real. I heard from a lot of mothers of who have kids our age, like our parents' age generation. Unplanned gave them great hope for their kids. Not their kids are working at Planned Parenthood, but who left their faith, or they were just in a lifestyle that they're trying to get them out of, and Unplanned serve as a hope for that. Did you get that feedback?
Oh my gosh, all the time. I mean, still to this day, I mean, it's one of the things I've sort of started to really incorporate in my talks because, you know, it's actually something that my parents, even, you know, just me leaving the industry, it's sort of like a ministry sort of blossomed with my parents that, you know, was sort of unexpected, but a lot of people started coming to them and saying, you know, my kid is, you know, going down this wayward path, like you said, not necessarily working in a clinic, but, you know, they've left their faith, or they, you know, this is going on with them, or, you know, they're living this particular lifestyle and we don't know what to do. And I think it showed, you know, it really, you know, they did a great job of depicting their relationship. I'm sorry, y'all, there's a lot of life going on back here behind these office doors. So life doesn't stop just because mom's doing something. So
That's right.
But you know, the movie did a great job of depicting the fact that, you know, my relationship with my parents didn't stop just because they disagreed with where I worked. And, you know, a lot of people have said, you know, well, I don't know how your parents continue to have a relationship with you. And, you know, my mom's response is, well, what do you think would have been better? You know, to sever the relationship? Right. I mean, how would that have been beneficial? You know, and yes, there were at times tension, you know, in conversation with, you know, particularly my mom and I, because my mom was more vocal. But I'm so thankful that my parents didn't nag me to the point of separating us, of creating a divide in our relationship. I'm glad that they knew how far to push without completely separating us. And so it's been really great because so many people have now reached out to them to really just get words of wisdom. And, you know, one thing I can say is that, you know, my parents, they never stopped praying. for me. And, scripture is clear that, if you, raise your child in a foundation of faith, that even though they may depart for a time, that they will return. And my parents had great hope in that. And my mom tells a story one time of just her being so frustrated. This was, after I'd been there for many years. And she was just so frustrated. And she got off the phone with me one day, and, my dad was sitting in his recliner, and my mom just said, I don't think she's ever going to leave. She's been there for 8 years, and it's like God is just not hearing us. He's just not answering our prayer. I don't know. I don't know what we're doing wrong. And just very frustrated, as, parents would be. And my dad just said to her, God has promised us that she will return. And we may not even be here to see it, but we have to hold on to that promise. And that's something that I've really started talking to parents about. You can't lose hope. You can't give up on your kids. You can't ever give up. You can't ever stop praying. You have to hold on to that hope, and you have to hold on to that promise, because God will not fail you.
Yeah. And especially with something as grave as abortion, we have to trust Good Friday. And I think that was a great lesson for me, because, you don't know your impact on you, meaning the general public, when you go and you pray at an abortion facility, when you fight the temptation to have anger towards an abortion doctor who gives you the middle finger, or towards some of the ridiculous things that we're seeing at these clinics right now, to fight that temptation, to offer it up, to fast for those people, to pray for those people, and to know, they could be on a webcast one day. But I think that fighting those temptations are so powerful. And this next scene, it's funny. It's the break room scene, but it ends with sort of your introduction to the grim reality and going into the POC lab. And so this is a scene that, of course, at the time I had no idea was taking place, that y'all knew who we were, that y'all talked about us and all of that. But also certainly had no idea of what the POC lab was. Gilbert, run that clip.
Yeah, I know exactly how you feel. I mean, I'm Catholic, and on Sunday, I heard a sermon about abortion. I don't care what anyone says. I know that I'm doing God's work here.
Well, you guys will never guess who knocked on my door last night.
Who?
Sean Carney.
Shut up.
Wait. Sheriff Woody at the fence? That's Sean Carney?
Oh, yeah. What did he want?
Oh, it was so weird. I opened the door, and I recognize him. I'm like, I know who you are. And he recognizes me, too. And he gets all bashful, and he's like, well, we're just doing this simple campaign. We're trying to get people to pray for an end to abortion for the next, 40 days. And I said, 40 days? Like Noah in the flood, 40 days?
Stop it.
I know. And he's
you are horrible.
Oh, you would have said the same.
I would have said the same.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
How many doors is he knocking on?
Try and guess. You can't. 25,000.
Where?
Yeah, everywhere.
How is that even possible?
What does that even mean? You think he's lying?
No, a kid like that doesn't know how to lie.
That's true.
Pro-lifers are so serious.
Cheryl, those shoes are amazing.
I know, thank you. You really fit here.
Thank you.
Are you enjoying it?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what? I think it's time for you to take the next step. I'd like you to meet me in the POC room in 5 minutes.
Okay. Did you hear that?
Mm-hmm.
I really fit in here.
Mm-hmm. Do you know what POC stands for?
Products of conception.
Pieces of children. Hope you had a light breakfast.
Okay, Abby. So for most people, the question here is, Do they really talk like that? I mean, is there a flippant attitude, or isn't that a little bit of pro-life propaganda? Are workers in there talking about pieces of children or the nursery or those other things?
Oh yeah, I mean that's totally real. And I don't think that what I tell people is, look, that's not just limited to the abortion industry. I mean, I have friends that work in, they're nurses, they work in the medical field, and it's, I think that sort of gallows humor is in a lot of different places. It's not just the abortion clinic. I have a friend who's, he's an ER doctor, and, he said, I watched your film, and, I can't say it was shocking, some of those things that they said. I can't say that I haven't heard some similar things in the ER, amongst the doctors and nurses who work there. When you work in an environment like that, when you're seeing death and, serious situations, you do start making those sorts of crude jokes and crude humor. And he said, it's wrong. And he said it was a reality check for me too. So, yes, it is happening. I think one of the things that makes it a little more heinous is because you're talking about innocent life in the womb. But yes, it's absolutely like that. So for people to not believe that it's happening, I mean, that's ridiculous. We're talking about people who accept the death of innocent human beings in the womb. So why is it such a leap to believe that they're going to joke about that? I mean, it's not a leap at all.
Yeah, we got that question a lot doing, tonight's webcast, but especially when the movie came out. And I always told them a story that you told me shortly after you left, which is, when that house next door to Planned Parenthood and moved next door, you had said, oh yeah, there was a joke around the office that we'd send y'all cookies in the shapes of babies, like to welcome you to the neighborhood, and that kind of flipping. So I think for people it adds, it may be shock value of, oh, they're making that up. But your explanation, this goes on all the time in whatever industry somebody's in. You could be an engineer or a lawyer or whatever. And it is wrong, but it happens, and it's revealing when it happens in an abortion facility for sure. Okay, so turning our attention to the people outside, the angry pro-lifers. Okay, so we have, this is so funny. Of all the things in Unplanned, this is, for a lot of people, this movie is like, it's like with The Passion and Schindler's, it's one and done. It's a heavy movie. And what people get worked up about is, did Abby Johnson really turn the sprinklers on you guys? So, Gilbert, roll that clip.
Are you getting everything? Uh-oh.
Hi.
Hi, Abby. I hear you've been promoted.
Yeah. I don't understand if you're not anxious to congratulate me.
No, actually, I was thinking that the women coming in here will finally have someone who cares about them running things.
Is this your camera?
Yes.
I need it gone.
I'm sorry, but we can't do that.
Sure you can. Just take it off the tripod, pack it up, and take it back to your office.
Abby, we've been accused of a lot of things, some of them criminal. This camera is our best evidence that what we're doing is peaceful and non-confrontational.
Sean, this is not the way that you want to start out our new relationship. Okay? Just angle it away from the fence. That's all I'm asking.
Can't do it. We need to see what's actually going on. If there's ever any question, we need it to be clear.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes I don't mind you guys. But this morning you were really pissing me off. And for your information, Sean, there have always been people willing to defend basic human rights. First, there was the fight against slavery. Then, it was the people who stood up against the Holocaust. Later, it was the battle for civil rights. And now, it is Planned Parenthood standing up for the reproductive rights of women.
Abby, you don't need to justify your job.
I'm not justifying anything, okay? I'm just trying to explain to you.
And you don't need to explain what you're doing either. The truth is, you've just cited 3 examples of injustice: slavery, segregation, and the Holocaust. That can only occur when a whole segment of the population is dehumanized. And that's exactly what Planned Parenthood does to the unborn.
Well, that went well.
Yeah, she'll be fine.
What are you smiling about?
You gotta give her this. She got us to move the camera.
All right, so this is the funny thing about, on the big picture, Unplanned is accurate. That's so troubling. But what I love about this scene is, it's 102 degrees in Texas and our hair is perfect. We don't need bottled water. There's no mosquitoes. It's all happy outside and everybody inside is just miserable. So it had a little bit of that Hollywood flair of like, is no one sweating? Aren't we like an hour north? That's great.
I think
Okay.
what I wish they would have included in the scene that they didn't is what we know that happened in the real life part of this. What actually is shocking to me is that I still wear my hair the same way that they put in the movie. Anyway,
Totally different webcast. That's the next pandemic.
So, no, but what really happened then after that, I mean, that did happen,
right,
between you and I. But then what they didn't include then was that when you said that to me, and then I looked at you and I said, "You're not going to convert me." And then I turned around and I went back inside.
With actually that same smirk that you just had. That's how you said it. That was an exact reenactment of what it was. That was my turning point actually on you, because I thought towards the end of that conversation, I thought, did I just blow that? Like, is she, is she going to run off or have I ruined her relationship with our, is she going to torture us? In other words, this new evil director. And when you said that, I remember immediately you turned around, you never came to our side. We would have never done that. It was always through the fence. And it's playbook. We're talking through the fence. And when you walked back up the hill, as we called it, and you said, "You're not going to convert me," I remember thinking, I wasn't even trying to. I was trying to just, sort of defend our point and having the camera. And I went back to the office and I told our team, Abby Johnson used the word convert. And that is a strong word. You only use that word if it's a possibility. When you say or convert to whatever, you end up converting. And I think that was the seed planted in me that Abby Johnson is troubled. She's defending her position. She's justifying her job, who she owes no explanation to whatsoever. And it was a great moment. I said, y'all won't believe she said we would never convert her. Who talks like that? And so I was telling the team and they're like looking at me like, yeah, but she's saying she'll never convert. But it was,
that's
it was
what
awesome.
I frequently tell people when they say to me, but Abby, our workers are terrible to us. They scream at us all the time. They flip us off. They yell at us. And I'm like, that's awesome. That's amazing. Right. And they look at me like I'm crazy. And I'm like, listen, you have a much higher chance of seeing a conversion in the worker, in the abortion doctor, in the nurse, and whoever who is screaming at you and flipping you off than you do in the worker who is ignoring you and completely apathetic when they walk in the door.
And you and I know cold-blooded abortion doctors, and look at you. They don't breathe. They don't blink. They get out of their car. They go inside. There's nothing you can do.
That's right. I mean, the workers who are the most on fire for the pro-life movement who have come through and then there were none, they will tell you themselves that they were the very worst at their clinic to the pro-lifers on the sidewalk. And we see that over and over again consistently. The ones who just like plug their ears and they walk in and they completely ignore you, you're going to have a harder chance of getting them onto your side of the fence than you will somebody who's screaming in your face and yelling at you. So, I mean, even the Bible talks about that, right? Better to be hot or cold than lukewarm. And that's where we see the most conversions taking place, those that are really fired up, those that are really passionate. So it's awesome when you have somebody who's like really angry at you, like be encouraged when that happens.
Yeah. And we got a question about this. So I'm going to ask you, because I want you to expand upon that. And this is a very moving email that we got. I had an abortion because I was told it was just cells. I had to live with that decision for the rest of my life. I was that girl that would laugh at the people praying outside Planned Parenthood. Now, like Abby, I am one of the biggest advocates for the unborn. As a young woman, very intimidated, offended, and upset by the approach that some pro-life people took, because to me it came off as preachy and condemning, even though I knew they thought they had good intentions. What are some of the most tactics that we can use without making women feel intimidated?
Yeah. You know, I think that we do, have to be careful in our approach. I think that, we have to be mindful when we're reaching out to people. And I think that we have to really be discerning. You know, I tell people all the time, you really have to pray about your gifts when you're out on the sidewalk. And you have to really discern what those gifts are. I know that I am not really the person who is gifted at reaching out to women after they've had an abortion. Now, it is important that when we are out on the sidewalk, that we stay until the last patient leaves, because we're not just there to be there to try to get women to not have an abortion, but we're there because we care for them after they have an abortion as well, because the abortion clinic will not be there for them if they have regrets down the road. So we want them to know that we will be there, even if they make an abortion decision. So it's important that we stay until that last car is gone. But I know that through discernment and through just practice and just being out there, that's really not my gift. Now, it's not because I don't feel compassion for these women. I do. I've had 2 abortions. I know what they're feeling like that day. I know what they're going through. But I think because I have a loud voice, I sort of have a low voice, I have sort of a big presence. I don't know. I'm just not very good at it. I mean, I think I come across as intimidating in that moment when they really need somebody has a more soft approach, who has a softer voice, who comes across as more compassionate. And so I know that about myself. And so I'm going to back off in that moment, right? And I'm going to let somebody else take the lead. And so I think it's the same. I tell people, not everybody is gifted at reaching out to abortion workers. If there's any anger in your heart toward an abortion worker, then please shut up. Don't talk to them. You are not the right person to be reaching out to them. So don't. I do know that I'm really good at talking to the men going in who are accompanying their girlfriends or their wives or whoever. So I think that you have to know, you have to discern, and God will help you with that through prayer and through just trial and error and sort of going out there and practicing, what your gifting is. So I think that that's important. But I also just think that, our approach is, so that's part of it. But I also think that, just the words that we say are really important, no matter what your gifting is, just the words that we say. So we don't want to say things like, murder. We don't want to use condemning language toward women. Even if you feel like that is the case. I mean, if you're in a crisis situation and somebody's yelling at you like, hey, don't go in there and be a murderer. Like, is that going to be somebody you look at and go, man, I think that's a person I could have a reasonable conversation with? Like, no, right? I mean, just use common sense. I mean, if you are in a crisis, who's the person that you want to go and talk to about the crisis that you're in? Like, just use common sense, like be reasonable. And I can tell you, I mean, we do, research. We look at the areas where we have success, more or less success with getting people out of abortion clinics. And I mean, I can tell you just by looking at the data, the areas where there are more peaceful outreaches, we have in states where there are more peaceful approaches, where there are more 40 Days for Life locations, where there's more Sidewalk Advocates for Life locations, we have a much higher rate of workers leaving. The areas where there are more aggressive outreaches taking place will hardly have any workers leave. And that has to also transfer to women who are choosing life for their babies as well. Right. Because intimidation is intimidation, period. And you don't want to be intimidating when you're out on the sidewalk. That's not going to cause a woman to feel safe with you. And safety is what's going to make her say, you know what, I think this is a person I can trust and I can talk to.
The line that the women who choose life use at a 40 Days for Life campaign is, I believe you. If you say you're here for me, I believe you. You say you're willing to help me if I choose life, you're here praying, you're peaceful, I believe you. And that goes a long way. I think that the not just the content of don't be a murderer today, but the tone, tone in your body, what you don't say is as important as what you say. And I think that is clear, as you mentioned, that y'all help more of the workers where there is that presence. And so, and I know for 40 Days for Life, it wouldn't have spread to all of these places if we were out yelling at people and yelling at workers and women and that. It has to be approachable because there's so much on the line. Because if they don't turn around, or then that will happen. The murder will happen, and it'll occur for sure in the abortion. And so I think it's a very good point. It's one that Unplanned again took on. Okay, the next scene is my favorite scene of the movie. It's the most powerful scene for me. I remember it, and a lot of people, I know this moved them to tears. So Gilbert, roll that clip.
Rhonda, baby, please don't do this. Please don't do this. Whatever you need, you can come live with us. Hey, Lily. Hi. Hey, baby.
Why are you crying, Grammy?
Grammy's just a little upset, okay?
Hey, baby, let's
Love
go inside.
you.
Let's go inside with Mommy, okay? Mommy's coming too. Let's go.
That baby you're carrying is gonna be just as beautiful as Lily. Rhonda, think about the joy that she's brought us. Now think about a world without her. Rhonda, don't do this. Rhonda!
Are you okay? Because if you need to talk about it, it seems like you have a lot of support from your family if you decided to keep the baby.
It's okay. That's just my mom. That's how she is. Trust me, I'm fine.
Please, I can't go through this.
Fine? How could she be fine? I was deeply shaken by what I'd just seen.
Help me.
The family stayed and prayed for an hour, then another hour, then finally, they went home.
Someday,
This place is gonna close. It has to. I can't continue with this constant heartache.
One of the reliefs that I had, because if you're a pro-lifer, everybody, you know, we've seen a lot of these scenes at a 40 Days for Life or anywhere where you're praying, where you're looking at them going, how can you do this? You're taking this man, the family's pleading. This is not as uncommon as people think, thankfully. It was so, we as pro-lifers have to believe it impacts the workers. And your comments at the end of this was deeply troubling. Like, what am I doing? I'm like separating this family. I was so glad this was put in the movie. I thought it was extremely powerful.
Yeah, I mean, and that, you know, people ask me all the time, like, how real was the movie and things like that. And you know, this is a scene that I always tell them, this scene was 100% accurate. And, you know, when we were talking about what to include in the film, what was really important to me to include in the film, this was one of the scenes that I said, this has to be included. Because this was, you know, one of the turning points in my conversion experience. I mean, this was one of the moments where I said, you know, what are we doing? What is going on? You know, it wasn't, because I think I had convinced myself for so long that, you know, abortion was just, this was for women who had no support. This was for women who were going to have to do it on their own. This is for women who were going to be kicked out of their homes. This is for women whose, you know, boyfriends had abandoned them. It was all the terrible, terrible situations, right? And I had made up these situations in my mind that this was the situation for every woman who walked into our door. Whether they told me that was the situation or not, that's what I had believed in my mind for every woman who had walked in. But here in front of my face, I mean, this was a slap of reality for me, that this woman was not alone, that she had her whole family standing out there saying, we're going to help you. We're going to do this with you. You don't have to do this. And she was just so callous toward her family, and then her daughter with her, and the sweetness that her, you know, this grandmother had toward her granddaughter. And it was such a stark reality for me in that moment, working at the clinic. Yeah, I knew that had to be included in the film. And because it was a transformative moment during my time at the clinic.
And it takes people to the sidewalks. It's not a fluffy, you know, pro-choice talking point or a pro-life talking point. It's what happens at these abortion facilities. And we've seen husbands, we've seen grandmothers. It really speaks to how abortion is an attack on the family. And the grandmother, the actress, was fantastic. I mean, in that scene, she was just awesome. Okay, so you're stirred, and we're going to go to the next scene of you and Cheryl in the movie. And this is one that got people's attention because this is sort of this is who we are, and this is what we do. Gilbert, roll it.
Cutting into our fees, we are going to Abby.
Well, it's just that abortion has never been my main priority. Just look at our mission statement on page 3. To provide a comprehensive range of reproductive health care and sexual health information through patient services, education, and advocacy. That's what I'm committed to doing. So if our stated goal is to decrease the number of abortions by reducing the number of unwanted pregnancies, then why are we being asked to double our abortion count?
Why don't we turn to page 4? Thank you. Abby. Frankly, I am shocked at the way you sabotaged me in there. Is this how you thank me? For all that I have done for you?
Sure, I wasn't
No,
trying to-
Abby, let me explain something to you. Fast food outlets look to break even on the hamburgers they sell. That's all they do, is break even. Do you know how they make their money?
No.
On the French fries and the soda, the low-cost, high-margin items.
Cheryl, I'm sorry, but I don't understand.
Abortion is our fries and soda. But somehow you've just decided that it's no longer your priority. Abortion is what pays your salary. It pays for your matching 401k, your 4 weeks vacation, your ample sick time. Abortion is what pays for all of it, for you and your family. Now, I didn't say anything when you decided to get married, and I said very little when you chose to become a mother, although I knew it would impact your work. But as clinic director, we are paying you to be a perfect instrument of corporate policy, and corporate policy is simple. We are an abortion provider.
But we're a nonprofit organization.
Nonprofit is a tax status, not a business model.
Okay, this is something that is easier for me to say than you because you worked for, but a lot of people saw Unplanned and they're like, Abby's boss was totally overdone. She's this wicked witch and this. And I have to say, knowing the real person and being out there, they were generous to her. This was where you're beating up on the Planned Parenthood executives. They cleaned her up a lot, made her a lot more polite. This was a hurting woman, and she was a woman. And I remember, when there's the scene earlier where she's like, get away from her, Mary Lisa, and all of those things. But what I would say to people about this scene is that, if Mary Lisa and I would have seen you out in town, in the grocery store during that time period where you had little kids and we had little kids, we could have you or given you a wave or whatever. It would have been weird, but hey, Abby. But if we were to see her, we're out. We're leaving Walmart. We're in the grocery store. She was crazy. And there's just no other way to put it. And so I want people to know that's not like, beating up on Planned Parenthood. For the business model, Abby, it's a pie. They get their tax funding, they get their donors, and then their services. So how much of their services come? How much of the income from the services is actually from abortion?
So it's a little over half of their income is actually coming from abortion. Under like a little under 50. Well, so what we estimate, so we will never know the actual percentage of their services are abortion because they would have to tell us the amount of unduplicated clients that they see every year. And they will never do that because that would tell us the actual numbers that would tell us the percentage of abortions that they provide. We estimate based on the amount of budgets that we have seen from former workers that about 30 to 35% of the services that they provide are abortion, but it makes up for over 50% of their income. They are an abortion provider, and we see that growing every year. We see that the only service that consistently grows year after year inside of Planned Parenthood, and this is according to their own annual report, is abortion services. So every other service that they provide, contraception, STD testing, you know, those beloved cancer screenings that they talk about all the time. All of those services are consistently on the decline. In fact, in the past 10 years, those services have declined about 70% in every category. So the only thing that is on the increase year after year is government funding and abortion. And so that's according to their own annual reports, if you look at the data year after year.
Yeah, it was a great scene, and there were so many people where they said, "Oh, I didn't know that this was the truth about Planned Parenthood, or this isn't the truth about Planned Parenthood, and I'm going to go look it up myself." And then they learn for themselves that this is the truth about Planned Parenthood. So, skipping ahead, you walk into the office, have your full change of heart, you witness the abortion. It's the scene that everybody knows. And then we are served the lawsuit. I think this, for many people, you know, we're trying to get you a job. You're trying to have a normal life, raise your kids, just work somewhere. No one would have known who Abby is. And Planned Parenthood comes after you. They work through the courts as they do to this day, particularly when one of their own bailed them. And so we are served a lawsuit. And this was the thing, you know, when you came into my office, I immediately had this concern for you that they are going to, and we've got a battle ahead of us, but you know, here we go. And I didn't want to say that to you, you know, because you're just on cloud, feeling free. You're bringing us donuts at the office, but your friends are about to torch you. And that's it. That's what ended up happening. So we'll roll this, and we'll share a funny story afterwards.
Abby.
Did you get my messages about Cheryl's threats?
Yeah, we're being sued. We're both gonna need lawyers.
Sued? Do you realize how serious this is?
Yeah. And I just realized you're 100 feet away from me. Abby! Hun, why don't you go ahead while I talk to Abby?
Bye, Pumpkin. Are you sure about this?
Yes. We got served right before I left work. There's a lawsuit from Planned Parenthood, plus a restraining order to keep us from saying anything public. Yours will probably arrive on Monday.
When were you planning on telling me about this?
Figured I'd let you enjoy trick-or-treating and then give you a call.
What are we gonna do?
I've already talked with Jeff Paradowski. I believe his response was, "I'm in, baby."
Wait. The one that's on the billboards, pointing his finger saying...
Get what you deserve. Yeah, he's an old friend.
Okay, you realize that attorneys cost money, and I just left my job.
Jeff isn't in this for the money. He's in this to help fight abortion. He's willing to cut into his Saturdays and meet with us tomorrow morning.
So what was very stupid is that I was trying to sort of get around this. That was a Friday night, and I was trying to wait until Monday to tell you. And I remember Lisa grabbed my phone and said, "You need to call her." I'm like, this is out of control. Because she's like, "What's happening?" I said, "I think Abby got served her papers. She's looking out." She's like, what's wrong with you? Call her. Y'all are being sued. So that's what led to that phone call. But so this is how to bring in Jeff. And it was so funny because we know Jeff really well. And I've known him a long time. And he's a great lawyer. He's taken on some big cases. You know, they were kidding around about him in the movie, which anybody who knows Jeff knows that's completely appropriate to do. Fantastic attorney. This actor, Abby, this guy was Jeff Paradowski.
It totally was. Yeah, it was funny. Like when it was funny because when we were talking about casting, and Chuck and Carrie were like, "Yeah, we got to find a guy to play Jeff Paradowski." And Doug and I said, "You're probably just going to have him play himself because nobody is going to be able to play Jeff Paradowski. I mean, nobody. He's just going to have to play himself. And they were like, we may have to consider that, you know? And so when they did find Kaiser and you know, they were showing me some clips and stuff of him, and I thought, I mean, maybe he might be able to do it. And so the final product was just perfect. And I thought, okay, like, this is the guy, like, he's going to be amazing. And he was so good. But it was funny because when you were saying, like, you know, I didn't want to tell you that, you know, there could be a lawsuit. Even if you would have told me, I wouldn't have believed it, because
wow.
I thought, you know, when I left the clinic, I just thought, if you would have said, like, oh, they're probably going to sue you, I would have been like, no, they're not. They're my friends. I mean, and why would they sue me? I mean, okay, so I don't believe in abortion anymore. They're all pro-choice. So, you know, they're going to support my choice to believe something else. And hello, they all are very open-minded and tolerant. So they're going to support whatever I choose to believe. I mean, I was so naive and truly duped by this whole mindset. It wasn't just that I was, you know, duped by the abortion industry. I mean, I was duped by this whole way of thinking, you know, this whole lie of tolerance and this lie of open-mindedness that they all claim to live by. But there was not an open-minded person among them.
And there was so much evidence, which is why the judge threw this out so quickly. And I thought Chuck and Carrie did a great job of handling the part of Unplanned, because once you enter a courtroom, which would have been entertaining because Jeff absolutely mopped the floor with some of these Planned Parenthoods. It was fantastic. He's a wonderful cross-examiner. And it was over in 45 minutes. But once you get into a courtroom with a movie, then it's like a courtroom drama, and it changes the movie and ruins it. So I thought they handled it well. Here is the clip of us meet Jeff for the first time.
Abby, meet Jeff. Jeff, meet Abby.
So, they're claiming that Planned Parenthood and its patients face imminent, irreparable harm from confidential information you've improperly disclosed, or are about to disclose.
That's nonsense.
Well, they managed to convince a judge otherwise. Our preliminary hearing is in 10 days. The attorneys for the plaintiff are a big firm out of Houston. But I'm betting we'll see some faces from DC as well. You're a big fish, and the sharks are smelling blood. Oh, also, you should prepare yourself that Megan and Taylor will be testifying to a completely different set of facts than the ones you've described to me.
They were my friends.
Emphasis on were. Okay, Abby, I'm going to ask you a series of questions. I want you to take all the time you need to answer honestly and think about them all you want.
Okay.
Have you ever revealed the identities of the doctors performing abortions at the facility, either to Sean or anyone else?
No.
No. You ever removed confidential patient information from the building, either physically or in digital form?
No.
Have you ever taken or removed anything from the building?
Just an old vacuum cleaner. But the one at the clinic broke, and we had a tight budget for equipment, so I brought mine from home. But when I quit, I wasn't gonna leave it there. That and a plant. But my mom gave me the plant.
Okay. Did you threaten Megan or Taylor if they didn't look to resign from Planned Parenthood?
No, how could I? I wasn't even their boss anymore.
Which brings me to my last and most important question for you. What aren't you telling me?
Nothing.
You sure? Because if there's something that you're hiding, I can guarantee it will come out in court. So, if there's anything that I need to know, now is the time to tell me, but we still have the time to figure out how to deal with it.
A while back,
curiosity got the best of me, and I pulled my own patient file. I couldn't resist.
How come?
I needed to see my baby.
Is that a problem?
Sure. For Planned Parenthood, if they try to make an issue out of it, I mean, trying to paint her like a criminal for wanting to see her own file, we can only hope they're stupid enough to try something like that.
So, what's our defense?
She's innocent.
That's it? That's our defense?
Yep.
We are so screwed.
So I want to get the vacuum cleaner that you left because we got a question for the webcast from a lot of people on did any other workers leave? And workers were going to leave and then didn't and then threw you under the bus. Hence, that's why Jeff's cross-examination of them was so effective. We had a paper trail of that. But they had your vacuum cleaner, and I'm remembering this on the fly vaguely, but I only know her, so I don't know who she is in the movies. I'm not going to use her real name. But one of those workers, you wanted your vacuum cleaner. And so you sent me to the corner, and she handed me the vacuum cleaner. And I had this awkward exchange of like, how's it going? You know, thank you for Abby's vacuum.
I did. It was my vacuum cleaner.
Move on with your life. I remember looking at you going,
fine, okay?
Why do you want your stupid, we'll get you a vacuum cleaner. Like, just move on. Go. You left. It was, looking back, I mean, at the time, I really should have been like, are you serious? You want your stupid vacuum cleaner back? I'm not meeting this worker. You know, we're in a court case and all this. And looking back, I didn't think it was fun time, but it's really funny now of it that you were just like, nope, as they say in Texas, what's right is right. And so it's my vacuum.
Right. I needed that vacuum.
Oh my word. Well, you got it. And it was awkward for me for sure. But, oh my gosh. Okay, a little bit of fun there. So yeah, okay, so our last scene tonight, and again, thank you for all your comments on the chat. We did not get to all the questions. Obviously, we've been flooded with questions. We can't get to all of them. But I want to just housekeeping reminders. Watch Unplanned on Prime. You donate to And Then There Were None. You see the link on the screen. If you want to get more workers like Abby out of the abortion industry, you can donate to And Then There Were None. And you can buy a lot of bundles on our store, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. We got a lot of specials and we've just slashed prices so you can get cheap DVDs and all that good stuff on our store, and the link is on there. Okay, the most beautiful part of the movie, I think, is the scene where you lay the roses on the fence. And for me, we remember that day. It was such a joyful day. It was like a family, and you know, we had a barbecue as we would in Texas, and everybody's rushing off, getting the little kids going to the barbecue. And I remember loading our kiddos into the car, and I turned just to see who was staying behind or was everything cleaned up mainly, and it was completely empty except for you. You were still there at the fence with your roses. It was absolutely beautiful. Something that I will never forget. Gilbert, let's roll that clip.
In my hand, I hold 2 roses. One for each of my own unborn children, who I decided to sacrifice on the altar of convenience. And I know I'm not the only one who's made that mistake. Thousands of babies were lost to abortion inside these walls, including one of mine. And today we remember them. We honor them. We vow never to forget them. So I'd like to invite you to join me in placing a rose of your own at the fence in memory of them, as proof that they are not forgotten.
matter to you both. But somehow the words don't matter. Because all I want you to know is that I love you so much. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I didn't fight for you. That I didn't love you enough then to keep this from happening. I think about you every day. But I know that someday I'll meet you both in heaven. Because God is merciful. And He has heard my cries and He has forgiven me.
So, Abby, you said something earlier. I don't know if I really believe it, which is, you're not the best person to talk to women who, after they've had an abortion. And I've seen you talk to women in a speech or personally. And you often know exactly what to say because you've been through it and you participated in it. But with 56 million babies here in the world, there can be a lot of discouragement. People are discouraged about a lot with this corona madness. But beyond all that, we'll get through this pandemic and we'll go to the ultimate pandemic, which is abortion. What do you say to people who are discouraged, particularly those who have been through an abortion or who have not come to terms with their abortion or just struggling with this, to keep going and to have hope? I mean, if you can be who you are today, if you can go through your abortions, if you can go through working at Planned Parenthood, go all the life it caused you personally, professionally, your family, and come out of the other side. What are some words for people as they're quarantined at home and we're going to go back and try to end this injustice afterwards?
Well, I mean, we always have to have hope. And I think that, there are times that we're discouraged, and there are times that we have days of discouragement. And that's natural, because this is hard. This is hard work. And, for those of us who have had abortions, it's hard work to heal from that. For those of us who've worked in the industry, it's hard to heal from those kind of wounds. But I remember one time I was, people have asked me, how do you heal from something like that? How do you heal from helping to, have participated and, having a hand in 22,000 abortions? How do you deal with something like that? How do you get over something like that? I don't know if you ever get over it. I mean, I don't want to get over it, right? Because that there will always be a grief there. There will always be a loss there that grieves my heart. That grief keeps me motivated to keep fighting for the unborn, to keep fighting for their mothers. So I don't ever want to get over it. But I tell people, one day I was, I hadn't been out of the clinic that long, but I was watching that movie Kung Fu Panda with Grace. And so there's this like wise old turtle in it. and the turtle was dying. And so the little mouse guy in it, he was talking to the turtle, and he was very sad because the turtle was dying. And he says, you know, I don't know how I'm going to live without you. What am I going to do? And the turtle says to him, do you know why today is called the present? He says, because today is a gift. And yeah, that really struck me in that moment, sitting there, you know, watching this animated film. And so when people ask me that, I tell them, you know, it takes practice. It takes practice to have hope every day. It takes practice to not wake up and be discouraged. It takes practice not to wake up and to live in my past decisions, because honestly, that's where the enemy wants me to live. Honestly, Satan wants me to live in discouragement and to live in my past, the place that I can't change. That's his playground, right? He wants to remind me of where I've been and the things that I've done and the things that I can't change. That's exactly where he wants me to live. And if I'm totally honest, there were days, especially in the beginning, where that's exactly what I did. You know, I woke up and I was sad all day, and I threw myself a big pity party, and I was, you know, I just wallowed around in it all day, and I drank too much wine, and I had too many margaritas, and that was my day, right, for the day. And I was super sad about it. And but most days I got up and I chose to live in the present, in this gift that God gave me. And I chose to live my life for his glory. And eventually I woke up and I didn't even have to make the choice anymore. I just knew that every day I didn't want to live in discouragement. I just knew that every day I just wanted to be present with him. And I guess that's my message to people, is it's a choice. You make a choice every day. You make a choice to live in discouragement or to live with hope. And I have to live with hope every day, because if I don't, I can't even keep fighting. And I have hope because I look at the stories of people who have had conversions. I look at the stories of babies who have been saved. I can see their faces. I can see that joy. And that keeps me motivated to keep fighting and to keep going. And when I need a break, you know, when I need a day where I don't hear the word abortion, then I take that day. Right? But then I come back to it and I keep fighting, because there's just too many lives on the line for me to stop.
Yeah. And I think that when we sign up for anything, life especially, we're signing up to suffer, saying like crucified Christ, and we will suffer. And for me, knowing you all these years, I have to say, of course, it's a just joy to see you go into Planned Parenthood, swipe your security card a million times, go in, do abortion day, leave, and then have this conversion, right? And now be helping hundreds of other workers. But on the big picture, having known you all these years, the biggest transformation that you can just tell, if somebody knew you, you know, when you were 20, and then they saw you today, it is your family, you as a wife and a mother, and your beautiful kids everywhere. I mean, your Christmas card, you know, like our Christmas card is just kind of ridiculous. It looks like you gathered a bunch of neighborhood kids, and that is truly the gospel of life. That is truly what changes culture, a pro-life culture for generations, is how we love our families. And what happens, I mean, look at what happened to you when you left. And look, just all the children that you have, and the joy. And that's why it's beautiful to hear you talk about hope, because without that, tossed in the towel and said, woe is me, those family portraits wouldn't be possible, you know? And I think that that's beautiful, is being not just open to life, but the whole mindset of a culture of life once you believe in hope. So it's absolutely beautiful. And for those of you who have not seen Unplanned, be sure to watch it on Amazon Prime. You can buy the DVD, but please share this webcast. We hope that it's useful to you. For those of you who submitted your unplanned story to media@40daysforlife.com, we'll take my best and we will send you a free DVD. And also, if you want a DVD in a bundle, you can get that at 40daysforlife.com/store. So be sure to check that out. Thank you, Abby. Thank you. I hope we get out of the quarantine soon. And thank you for putting yourself out there. We hope everybody enjoyed this. Please be sure to go and watch Unplanned and share this powerful story. God bless you.